Welcome to The Explainer. We are jumping right in today because we're looking at the stark financial realities of relocating between two absolute powerhouse global hubs, Nairobi and London. Whether you're a Westerner trying to figure out how to stretch your capital, or a Kenyan professional gearing up for a high-stakes career move to the UK, geography literally dictates how hard your money works. Let's build out your complete expatriate ledger. Okay, let's dive into this. London will humble you financially very quickly. This quote just perfectly captures that immediate, often brutal financial shock that so many professionals experience when navigating Western capitals for the very first time. You might think, right, that moving to earn in pounds or dollars is this automatic massive upgrade, but the reality of those daily expenses, it can hit you like an absolute freight train.
So, I've got to pose this question directly to you. Does moving abroad actually solve your money problems? The truth we're uncovering today is that your income is really only half the equation here. It's the financial friction of your environment that actually determines your true wealth.
Moving on to Section 1, the relocation reality check. We're looking at the myth versus the financial reality.
We typically hear this single kind of narrow narrative about Kenya, right? That it's just this transient safari destination. But the reality on the ground is vastly different. Nairobi is actually one of the most functional, highly underestimated financial hubs on the entire continent. It is a high-yield environment where your money doesn't just stretch further, it operates in a completely different way if you just understand how the local systems work.
All right, Section 2, housing, zones versus estates, and the ultimate price of space. And this brilliantly illustrates the dramatic difference we're talking about here. In London, if you're staying in Zone 2 or 3 just to be near the office, you are paying upwards of £1,800 a month for a very basic one-bedroom, or maybe £800 for a cramped, shared room that expats affectionately call a sad space. Now contrast that with Nairobi neighborhoods like Kilimani or Syokimau. For a fraction of that cost, we're talking $1,000 to $1,500, you are locking down a luxury 2 or 3-bedroom apartment, you've got a pool, a gym, round-the-clock security, and hey, maybe even a view of the national park.
But listen, here is the catch, and this brings us to what we call the arbitrage principle. A Western dollar or pound does not magically do 10 times the work in Kenya. No way. It does roughly 3 to 4 times the work, but, and this is a massive but, only if you live like a resident. If you insist on importing your entire lifestyle from back home, shopping exclusively at international supermarkets, demanding imported goods, well, your money is going to evaporate just as fast as it would in London. Section 3, navigating transport systems. Let's look at these vivid infrastructure differences.
Now, if you are a Kenyan professional making that move to the UK, you've really got to brace yourself for some profound transport shock. London relies heavily on this rigid, zoned mass transit system. Taking the tube is easily going to cost you over £150 a month. And walking 30 to 40 minutes a day, that's just a normal part of life over there. Contrast that with the incredibly dynamic, on-demand networks you are probably used to in Nairobi. You're hopping into $3 to $10 Ubers, grabbing bodabodas, or jumping on the SGR inner-city train down to Mombasa. It is just a totally different rhythm of daily movement. Moving to Section 4, banking, M-Pesa, and friction. Let's trace the flow of capital. Okay, if you're operating in Kenya, you absolutely must understand M-Pesa. It is so heavily misunderstood in the West. People think it's just a money-sending app, kind of like Venmo or Cash App. But actually, scratch that. It's not an app at all. It is the fundamental, essential national financial infrastructure. It's woven directly into the Kenyan economy in a way that literally has no equivalent in the US or the UK. The learning curve for this system is exactly 1 day. But man, it unlocks the whole country for you. You use M-Pesa for everything. You pay your monthly rent, you settle business invoices, purchase domestic airline tickets, pay your government taxes, receive international transfers, and even accumulate your savings. It is absolute frictionless infrastructure at its finest.
So Kenya offers this incredibly frictionless system where you can even build direct personal relationships with your bank manager. But London is a high-friction financial environment. If you move to the UK, realistically, you're an account number. You absolutely must implement a strict, automated bucket budgeting strategy just to survive. You have to strictly separate your rent, your groceries, and your bills into digital envelopes because otherwise, the money is just going to leak away before you even notice.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how fast those little leaks add up. £120. In London, if you're just blindly tapping your card for a seemingly harmless 4-pound coffee every morning, that quietly drains £120 by the end of the month. Think about that. Your entire monthly grocery budget vanished into caffeine purely because of that high financial friction.
All right, Section 5, the true cost of living, survival versus luxury. Let's look at the hard numbers.
So, let's walk through these buckets in London. Once you fill your mandatory expenses, you're looking at £1,000 plus for a Zone 2 or 3 rent, up to $400 for utilities and bills, $200 for basic groceries, and at least $150 for the tube. When you add that all up, a starting professional salary of £35,000 to £45,000 a year essentially amounts to a survival budget after taxes. Sure, you might be able to squirrel away a little savings, but you are carefully watching every single penny. Now, let's contrast that exact same budget with Nairobi. For roughly $4,000 a month, you're purchasing a deeply comfortable, frankly elite lifestyle. We're talking a luxury apartment for around $1,200 to $1,500, frequent dining and nightlife at top-tier spots for a few $100, a full-time housekeeper for about $200 a month, and totally having the freedom to take weekend flights to the beautiful Mombasa coast. The difference is just staggering. But we have to look at the full ledger here impartially. 33%. In 2023, the Kenyan shilling experienced a massive 33% currency fluctuation against the dollar. Now, if you're an expat holding foreign currency, this was an absolute purchasing power boost, but it also really highlights the inherent volatility and the risks of operating across different global economic systems. And to be perfectly balanced, we have to talk about the local friction, because the Kenyan environment does demand high adaptability. You are going to face occasional power outages that can sometimes last over a day. You might have to rely on private water trucks because of an inconsistent compound water supply. You're navigating 3G and 4G internet speeds, not true 5G. Plus, there are astronomical markups on imported goods, a pair of Nikes, Apple products, or even just some imported cheese that's going to cost you up to 2.5 times what it does in the West. Which brings us to our final section, number 6, your strategic global realignment, building your floor.
So the crucial point is this strategic sequence right here. Pay attention to this. First, if you're moving to a place like Kenya, you want to maintain your foreign income streams or digital businesses. Second, relocate and spend time actually understanding the local system. Please do not move and immediately start a business before you know the terrain. Third, and this is massive, treat your Western pension or salary as your financial floor, not your ceiling. In the West, your salary is your ceiling. In a market like Kenya, it covers your basics, which allows you to strategically do step 4, selectively invest in appreciating local assets, like titled land, once you're actually settled. Which leaves us with this vital question for you to ponder. Look at your own ledger right now. Is your current city your ceiling? Is it limiting your wealth with high friction and massive daily expenses? Or is it acting as a foundation that actually allows your capital to truly grow? Really think about that. If you want to master making geography work for you, make sure you hit subscribe. We will see you in the next explainer.